Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be having a look at June's exceptional story, Flame, Lead, Clay, Glass. Before I start, there are spoilers ahead. If you want to play this yourself, please become an exceptional friend, help support Failbetter, play these stories yourself. Not only do you get access to these stories, you also get more actions, a bigger deck, and various other benefits. But let's see what this tiresome errand is. You have received an invoice, a bothersome invoice, an erroneous invoice, one that shouldn't have been addressed to you in the first place. You absolutely did not commission 24 vanity prints of his amused lordship, and you shouldn't have to pay for them. Letters have proved insufficient. You've come down to the little print shop on Gascony Court to sort this out. Let's approach the counter when the man in the green bowler hat has quite finished counting out his pennies, one at a time. The bowler-hatted man finally moves aside, gives you an apologetic smile. At last. A squat man with his hood up steps into the shop behind you and reaches for a wrapped bundle on the rack of orders waiting for collection. The diminutive printer's gaze snaps up. "That isn't yours!" The newcomer hesitates, hand hovering over the package. Then he grabs it and breaks for the door. "Stop! Thief!" The culprit has his hand on the handle. And then everything is suddenly on fire. Oh dear. There's a wave of ravening heat. The glass shopfront shatters from the sudden differential. The thief staggers backward, skin blistering. The penny-counting man's bowler hat catches. He whimpers as his hair goes up too. The printer just stares at the curling motes of ash flecking the air. The epicenter stands. Yes, stands by the door. It's hard to look at first, a swirling wreath of coiling fire. It gazes, as far as you can tell, since it possesses neither face nor eyes, slowly around the room, searching for something. And even in those scant few moments, the flames spread until the very walls of the building are alight. So we have three options. We can seize the package. The thief dropped it as he fell. Its wrapping must be flameproof, but the corner of a clay tablet pokes out. We can distract the creature. It's between you and the door, but you can buy time for people to get out. Or you can find something to hit it with. You're yet to find a crisis that can't be solved by whacking it with something heavy. Well, maybe not solved, but certainly made more fun. Excuse me, I want to whack it. A 95% chance, let's see. Ow. The print shop's cash register is damnably heavy. You lob it at the creature just to see what happens. The printer screams in horror as metal slags and cash combusts. Interesting. An oil lamp, a decorative bust of a long-dead monarch. Ah, a guillotine blade. That one you swing for the creature's head. To your somewhat dubious credit, it has the smallest impact, making the creature not stagger exactly, but move. Still, one is all you get. What your highly scientific interrogation has determined is that this creature is not readily harmed by physical force. The others take advantage of the distraction to flee to the back room. Going out the front door would mean walking through the fire. Best follow them then. A printing press dominates the back room. A hulking mass of metal, silenced after its clay operators downed tools to see what's going on. Now they're furiously trying to clear the pallets blocking the back door. The creature follows you, the door frame igniting as it passes. It regards the room, seems to inhale, and vanishes. The heat abruptly dims, an immense relief from the choking, impossible furnace. easy to forget for a moment the building is still on fire. We can either evacuate, get everyone out of the building in one piece. We can interrogate the thief. He must know something about all this. And there's nothing like being stuck in a burning building to loosen the tongue. Or we can just flee. Let's interrogate the thief. You grab the little sneak by his collar as the others rush for the door. He squeaks in an undignified manner as you put him to the question. It seems he was sent to steal a specific package by his sometime employer, whom he only knows as the engineer. The engineer is engaged in some long-running feud with the correspondent. He says this is the first time a terrifying flame monster has popped into being during an operation. In igni veritas, it seems he is telling the truth. On your way out, you stumble across the package he was after. Best save it from the flames. It might come in useful. We recovered a peculiar correspondence plaque. Interesting. A letter written in immaculate violet hand. The letter awaits you back at your lodgings. The paper is thick, a tasteful cream. The writing a terrifyingly precise copper plate. Quite the statement to write in violent, though. That was rather a fiery affair down at Gascony Court. I believe that a person of your stature will be curious as to the identity of the responsible party. People of my exceptional nature are always hungry for answers. Perhaps the same can be said for someone of yours. You would find it diverting to pay a visit to my humble abode. It could be to your profit, and if not, it certainly wouldn't be to your disbenefit. Well, we can take the meeting. The address is no less than a bizarre spire apartment. Ooh, top brass right there. You make your way to this most curious-sounding appointment. You're shown by a white-gloved valet who recognizes you by sight. The apartment is luxurious, but falls just on the classy side of crass, stocked with a tasteful collection of curiosities. A vast illustration of the great chain of being, drawn on parchment. A taxidermied hermit crab, a lump of misshapen iron, unlabeled, perhaps extracted from a meteorite. The valet offers you a comfortable divan and a tray of tea and eclairs. My master will be along shortly, he says, and exits. The teapot is ensconced with a thin copper cage, definitely some minor working of red science. A formidably competent one, your eyes. It will certainly keep the tea hot, and probably hardly explodes at all. So we can either drink the offered refreshment. You can tell a lot about someone from the tea they serve. We can snoop subtly. How could you pass up such an opportunity for information gathering? Or we can snoop shamelessly. No one said you shouldn't make yourself at home. Let's subtly snoop. The bookcase is packed and well used. The elevation of man, the Gulbahar redaction, the non-Cartesian astroplanar, interpolation for beginners. And by the window, a desk, top concealed with a velvet cover. Beneath, a set of papers, neatly arranged, postulating some unobserved sigils which may be relevant. A theoretical sketch of what it refers to as that which passes through and out and ultimately escapes its assigned orbit. What are we getting ourselves into? Well, I guess we should drink the offered refreshment. How is the tea? The tea is a lapsang souchong from the surface. Care has been taken to ensure optimal steeping and extraction. The flavour would be delightful, you're sure, were it not for the scaldingly hot temperature. It obliterates any chance of tasting the stuff and forces you to swig milk straight from the jug. It's a nice idea, if hideously unnecessary and actively dangerous. A door to the room opens, and a man in fireproof overalls and heavy work gloves enters, dusting soot from his sleeves. His smile relaxed, but he moves impatiently. The valet relieves him of his protective gear, revealing a brocaded burgundy suit underneath. The engineer pours the tea, careful to keep his hands away from the copper. He sips delicately, regarding you over his cup. You feel your measure being taken. To forestall any accusations of mistrust, yes, one of my agents was at Gascony Court, but that flaming manifestation would have happened regardless. It was not part of my design. He steeples his fingers. All this has happened before. It presents a grave danger and an unparalleled opportunity. I shan't waste my time, or yours, he adds as an afterthought. I mean to capture the entity for my research. The man responsible for the manifestations will seek to thwart me, as he always does. So, my offer is thus. Find him. I believe you have the means already, and contrive to assist him in dealing with the manifestation. Keep me informed so I can be ready when the time comes. In return, I shall pay handsomely, and we can accept his offer. Not that you needed further reasons to pursue the matter, but getting paid for it would be a nice bonus. We can decline his offer. Perhaps you don't trust him. Perhaps you wish to remain a free agent in this matter. Perhaps you simply hate money. That doesn't sound like me at all. The engineer smiles. He raises a hand, and his valet sets a velvet pouch next to your teacup. A down payment. Find him. Help him. And when you know where the entity is going to manifest, contact me immediately. Well, let's take a look at this mysterious plaque. Fresh from your meeting with the elevated engineer, you take out the package you recovered from the print shop. Can it lead you to its designer? The one apparently responsible for the flaming manifestation? Let's inspect it. Inside is a clay tablet, the dimensions of those lead plaques used for study of the correspondence. It seems the printers were charged with embossing a series of correspondence marks upon it. They're incomplete, but this one would mean unshackled from your destined orbit. This, a hot coal swallowed, though another need not. The fire has rendered the tablet hard and brittle. One corner has entirely vitrified, flash flamed into murky brown glass. The clay is standard London clay. No, not just any London clay. You recognise the hue from the underclay in spite. Ooh, we get to go down into the underclay. Interesting. The matter of clay, you descend following labyrinthine corridors and broad steps. You pause to compare your plaque to the walls. You are in the right place. You branch off, away from the area where the unfinished men congregate, and press on deeper into the dark. There, the sound of metal on stone, candlelight dimly visible from a doorway. Someone is here. Let's enter the workshop. Who has made their home down here in the dark? The room, the workshop, generously proportioned and stocked with makeshift equipment. The clay man who occupies it tinkers with a lead slab, glassy tongue pressed between his teeth in concentration. He's distinctive, even for one of his kind. His body is soft clay, marked with cracks and sigils. His clothes are expensive, albeit marred by worn stitching and several years of grime. From his head jut jagged crystals of glass. He looks up at you without fear or alarm. His expression is one of unguarded curiosity. The Clay Correspondent fusses over a great armature partially clad in lead tablets. It's somewhere between a bathtub and a blast pit for conducting particularly combustible experiments. He catches your expression. It's just a scale model, he says absently. The real one will be much bigger. Ah, hand me that wrench, would you please? Okay, we can either follow his directions. The Clay Correspondent is distracted. Offer him what help you can, or we can tell him about the manifestation. The clay plaque was of particular interest to the flaming entity. That plaque led you to him. Let's follow his directions and see what more information we can find. You hand him the wrench, then help realign several misplaced lead markers. Then shift his workbench several yards back to give a better safety margin. Then he grabs you and drags you away from the circle as one of the tablets starts to smoke. He shakes his head. Sorry, I've had to rush things, you see, He waves his hand. No time to explain, and goes back to fussing as the flame gutters out. Then he freezes, really noticing your presence for the first time. Who are you? Did he send you? Oh, well, let's tell him about the manifestation. The correspondent looks grim. It's back. I knew it was back. He looks at his makeshift array of gear. I just hoped I could stop it before anyone got hurt. He slumps back against the wall. It's called the Correction. It first manifested years ago and caused a great deal of destruction. I banished it, but couldn't destroy it. This time I'll get it right. It should be impossible for something of its nature to manifest down here, but there are, well, special circumstances. And what does it want? It seems to fixate on certain workings of red science. It seeks to, well, correct them. The correspondent is a poor liar, but his anguished concern is genuine enough. That tablet you found is an experiment of mine. I suspect the Correction was drawn to it. The correspondent's expression becomes fierce. The glass protruding from his head glints in the candlelight. You need to stop it before it does any more damage. There's someone else, though. He'll stop at nothing to get his hands on it, even if it gets people hurt. He's conspicuously not asked for your help. Shall we tell him that we met the elevated engineer? Or we can neglect to mention the meeting? Let's tell him, and that you agreed to pass information to him. I'm not surprised. He can be quite persuasive. There's bitterness in his voice. Still, I won't turn down your assistance if it helps me stop the Correction. He looks at you, eyes hard without guile. Though, I'll still do everything in my power to ensure he doesn't get what he wants. And what is that? The Correction. He seeks ascension, to become more than what he is. Nothing is ever enough. He bangs a plate into a place a little too hard. We used to cooperate, explore the craft together. The Correction came about because of that. He wants to control it, but that's only going to get more people hurt. I mean to destroy it instead. The last time we tried, neither of us got what we wanted. He looks at the mess of correspondence paraphernalia and taps his head thoughtfully, tinking the glass. This isn't going to work. I need to get ahead of it, know where it's going to strike next, so I can be ready. There are some things I need your help with. I was not always this way, he says. I was given a different life, and I like to think that I've used it well. He gestures back towards the wider underclay. I'm no longer bound by the rules of my kind, and I have the power to help them. I will not allow the Correction to cause further harm. Well, we can agree to help. This matter is not going to simply go away, and London cannot be left to burn. The Clay Correspondent nods, relieved. I have a plan, but time is short, and there are places you can go where I cannot. He hands you a hunk of clay. A piece of London herself. The marks on this make it sensitive to the correction's presence. It will grow warm if a place resonates with it, and as the correction itself grows closer to manifesting, I need more information to be able to anticipate its next move. He's holding something back. One way or another, you will need more information. Something was coming. On the trail of the correction, you need to discover what you can about the correction before it strikes next. The Clay Correspondent has plans to destroy it before it can do any more damage, but clearly isn't telling you everything. The Elevated Engineer has other ideas. So we can try and perform induction by red science. 30% chance. You didn't learn the forbidden arts not to use them when the need arose. 30%, let's see if it works. You spend an hour sketching an elaborate design for a machine that will lead you to the correction. It's a masterpiece and only requires 6 impossible components. Alas, you can only think of a way to make 5 of them. Damn, let's try again. Okay, how about again? Eventually we'll pass, right? Hey, we passed. A surprising epiphany, a blazing trail, a testament to the importance of heat-proof gloves. Okay, now we can either safeguard the bystanders. The Clay Correspondent is holding something back. You may be able to learn more about him and his history by asking around the Clay Quarters. We can go in search of strays. There may be stray works of correspondence around London which might draw the correction's attention. Or we can hit the books. There are tried and tested ways of finding information about the Neath's unexplained phenomena. Let's ask people about the history of this man. Does anyone know him here? A crimped haulier tells you the tale while he polishes his shoulders to a mirror shine. It seems the Clay Correspondent was one of them once, an indentured dockhand who dreamed of a different life. When he met the Elevated Engineer, he got one. The hauler doesn't know the details, but he remembers the day the Correspondent changed. From a hard, glazed stalwart to the soft clay work of alchemy that he is today. The change gave him power too, rather than simply being marked with correspondence. He could wield it with confidence. He took up with the engineer and hasn't been back since. Last I heard, he tries and utterly fails to lower his voice, he was helping our unfurnished brethren. Okay, interesting. Back on the trail. Let's hit the streets this time. To an outside observer, your wandering might seem aimless, but you have a system. You cover as much ground as possible, as efficiently as possible, always paying attention to the warmth of the clay within your pocket. Well, let's put the word about. You have people you can trust to make discreet inquiries. See what they have to say. A cryptic note, a nod in the right direction, a newspaper with an article circled in red pen. Useful? That remains to be seen. Okay, now we can either go in search of strays or hitting the books. Let's go in search of strays. Stray correspondence around London that might draw the correction's attention. As you pass through Ladybones Road, the clay lump in your pocket grows so abruptly hot that it's a miracle your clothes don't ignite. Could this herald the arrival of the correction? Let's inspect the sigil. You can't read the glyph precisely, but you can interpret it as you might a work of art. Oh, but actually I'm a scholar of the correspondence, so I can just read the sigil. Just not allowed, for God's sake. It's new to you, but it has more than a passing resemblance to an affection shared between two equal masses. Perhaps by way of two futures endlessly circling. A statement of partnership, then. One fierce enough to have been blazed in searing correspondence for all of London to see. A little time, some heated conversations, and a whisper of shoe leather reveal 5 more, scattered around the city. Between them, they tell a story, a partnership of convenience, a burgeoning friendship, and a flaming passion to set light to the world. Something is pursuing you. You feel abruptly certain of this fact. And isn't it a little hot? Yes, you're sweating. Or is that just the exertion of traipsing round London? You pick up the pace, trying to outrun whatever dogs your heels. Could it be? No, not the correction. There would be more fire and screaming. Still, it's hard to shake the sense that... yes, eyes on the back of your neck. A metaphor, in this case. A slight echo to your footsteps, a doubling that should not be there. Someone is keeping time with you. Well, let's collar them. What kind of knave follows someone through the streets when they're about their private business? Words must be had. You deploy some counter-shadowing techniques, abrupt changes of direction, sudden alleyway shortcuts, tying your shoelaces in the most damnably inconvenient places. Your shadow is no slouch, but you're not trying to lose them. Your latest chicane forces them to break into a run to keep up. You are waiting for them. It's the thief from the print shop. Their eyes bulge as soon as they realize it's you. They try for a smile and make their voice exceedingly polite. Oh, sorry, Gav. The engineer has me on your case. Doesn't like to put all its eggs in one basket, you know. Whatever you're mixed up in, he wants it real bad. Right, we need to raise our seeking the correction. Will we get lucky and do the red signs? No. And now finally we can hit the books. The correction is a being of searing, living flame that contains marks of correspondence within its body. Surely more information on the subject must exist. What is it? What are its weaknesses? What does it want? We can either study the correction at the university. The university is a bastion of knowledge and insight, even, or especially, on obscure metaphysical matter like this. We can study the correction in our own library. What good are all these books if you can't put them to work once in a while? That would be our voluminous library. We can study via our contacts. And all else fails, that is your hardy network of connections. Someone must know something. Let's study the correction in my library. You turn the whole library up and down, traipsing back and forth to your lab 3 times to be sure, only to find what you were searching for 3 from the top in your mountainous to-read pile. According to this rather gushing and overconfident monograph, a being like the correction is an epistemological inevitability. For a language so rich in universal meaning, it stands to reason that a suitable confluence of semantics might manifest as a kind of living organism. Someone's scribbled metaphysical immune system. The margin. Is the correction the correspondence pushing back? Does every act of red science risk such fiery blowback as this? Uncertain, but if you try to break reality, it should be no surprise if things get rather out of control. The lump of clay in your pocket flares with sudden, fierce heat. You're standing outside the Singing Mandrake, and either they're drinking something deeply inadvisable, or something bad is about to happen. Flame blossoms from the ground before you, cracking pavement and shattering brick as it spirals into its humanoid form. The correction has come. Correspondent marks shimmer throughout its body, a searing palimpsest. Flames lick the air, sensing, looking, tasting. Its attention will be on you soon. Though we can try and read the correction. This uses our scholar of the correspondence. The correspondence is a language, and you can read it well enough. What is the correction? Let's see what it says. Ouch. That which corrects the which should not be. That which is bound eternally in opposing orbit. The zenith's azimuth. The satellite that destroys its planet. Beneath the sigils, an image, described in negative space. The Clay Correspondent. He is that which should not be, rewritten through correspondence and red science. Now a correction has arisen, a reflexive action, the shadow to the engineer's act of creation. The Clay Correspondent is a wound in the world which has allowed the correction in, but now that it is here, the correction looks around, taking in London. Its gaze settles on the distant bazaar, and the fire of its flesh burns brighter in anticipation. Right now, this is about the Clay Correspondent, but when he is gone, there is much else that needs correcting. The correction dissipates in a furnace wash of air, its current manifestations spent, but it grows ever stronger. Those who reach too far with the red science stand to break more than laws. There is a blast rush of air nearby, like a furnace door being opened. A moment later, the elevated engineer rounds the corner, panting, agitated. He takes in the scene. "You let it get away?" he groans in frustration. "There won't be many more opportunities. When he makes his move, you contact me, you understand? I can't waste this chance." Well, let's ask him about the Clay Correspondent's recreation. If what you've heard is true, it was the engineer who made the correspondent what he is now. The engineer's irritation doesn't dissipate, but it dims. "I had a hand in it, that's true. I needed a subject to test the limits of my craft, to see if the red science could truly elevate a living being beyond its limitations. A clay man was a good subject. They have within them a piece of the neath, something fundamental. I replaced his with something more fitting." His fingers drift to his sternum, unthinkingly grip something worn beneath his shirt. "But it's not true to say I made him. Even he deserves credit where it is due. He wanted to exceed the limits imposed on him by his original creation. I admired that in him, even if it wouldn't help me achieve the same." Okay, what can you tell me about the correction? What does he know about the being? "It's beautiful," he says. "I'm a surgeon. The red science my scalpel. A few careful cuts." He gestures with the blade of his hand. "Stretch the skin, stitch it closed, and you can reshape reality. But it seems that if I cut too deep, reality tries to heal itself, which sets me thinking, just what am I cutting on? What lies beneath the wound?" He mimes, in placing a set of surgical clamps. "I want to use the correction to find out, to prise open the wound and crawl my way out, through the bloody skin of reality." Let's ask him about the Clay Correspondent. They were lovers once, and friends and partners before that. I don't dwell on past mistakes. If I'd known what a persistent pain he was going to be. He wavers, frowns, looks for a moment impossibly lost. Then he sneers and waves a hand. "You need a hard shell to do what I do. He's too soft. For his own good, and certainly for mine." Okay, so we have two options. We can let him go. Whatever your intentions, the engineer was too slow this time. One way or another, you need to be ready for the correction when it next strikes. Or we can reassure him. Lofty ambitions are not easily achieved. He must be patient and prepared. This will lower rekindling the flame and advance the story. Let's just let him go. "I must contain the entity, surely you see that. This doesn't end with him. He is the means by which it has entered this place. But once he is gone, the destruction will continue, unchecked. He cannot destroy it. My way is the only way." The engineer stalks back around the corner. "Time is short. When the moment comes, if we flinch, the neath will burn." By the time you round the corner yourself, he's gone. Some fantastical trick? Or did he just have a hansom waiting? "And I think that's a perfect place for me to end the first episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you again to the members of the channel. It really does help me keep the channel going, and it means an awful lot to me. So, as always, see you next time.